You don't have many people to call. No constant messages. No group chats lighting up your phone. Sometimes, entire days pass, and no one reaches out. And you notice something confusing. You're not always lonely. Sometimes you feel calm, clear, even comfortable in your own space. But then another thought appears. Are you becoming disconnected, or are you simply built differently? Because if humans are wired for connection, why does your mind sometimes prefer distance? The answer isn't what most people think, and it begins with how your brain processes the world itself. From the outside, having few friends looks like absence. Absence of connection. Absence of belonging. Society quietly teaches you that social quantity equals emotional health. More friends means more happiness. More interaction means more fulfillment. But internally, your experience doesn't match that formula. You can sit alone without panic. You don't feel an urgent need to fill silence. And forced interaction often feels heavier than peaceful solitude. This creates a quiet contradiction. You can connect with people, but you don't always feel the need to. And when you do connect, you notice something others don't. Subtle shifts in tone, unspoken tension, moments when words don't match emotions. Your brain doesn't just hear people, it reads them. And this deeper processing changes how your nervous system responds to social environments. This pattern isn't random. It reflects specific psychological traits. Traits that change how your brain regulates energy, meaning, and connection. And the first trait begins with how deeply your brain processes information. Having few friends isn't always social failure. Sometimes it's cognitive selectivity. Your brain isn't rejecting people. It's filtering stimulation. Every interaction requires neural processing. Your brain must interpret words, facial expressions, tone, intent. For some people, this happens lightly. For others, it happens intensely. If your brain processes social information more deeply, each interaction consumes more mental energy. This is linked to a trait called high sensitivity, studied in personality psychology. Highly sensitive nervous systems process more detail per experience. This increases depth of perception, but it also increases cognitive load, which means fewer interactions are needed to reach mental saturation. Your brain isn't avoiding connection, it's regulating input. But this deeper processing creates 5 rare psychological traits, and once you understand them, your experience begins to make sense. The 5 rare traits. Trait 1. Your brain prioritizes depth over frequency. Your brain doesn't measure connection by quantity, it measures it by depth. This involves stronger activation in the default mode network, the system responsible for reflection, meaning-making, and internal simulation. This network allows your brain to generate rich internal experiences without external input. Thinking itself becomes engaging, reflection becomes rewarding. This reduces dependence on constant external stimulation. Cause, mechanism, result. When your internal world is neurologically active, your dopamine system receives stimulation internally, so you don't need constant social interaction to feel mentally engaged. Real-life example. While others feel bored alone and seek distraction, you can sit quietly and feel mentally occupied. Your brain becomes its own environment. And because of this, surface-level interaction often feels insufficient, which leads to the second trait. Trait 2. You are neurologically sensitive to emotional authenticity. Your brain constantly scans for emotional congruence. This involves the insula, a region responsible for detecting internal and external emotional signals. It compares what someone says with how they feel. If there's a mismatch, your brain detects it instantly. Cause, mechanism, result. When your insula detects emotional inconsistency, your nervous system registers subtle threat or discomfort, which makes interaction feel mentally draining. Real-life example. Someone smiles, but their tone feels forced. Others ignore it, but your brain notices the inconsistency. And without knowing why, you feel tired after the interaction. This naturally pushes you toward fewer, more genuine connections, not because you dislike people, but because your brain protects you from emotional noise. Trait 3. Your reward system is calibrated differently. Social interaction activates dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. But dopamine doesn't respond equally to all interaction. It responds most strongly to meaningful, emotionally significant experiences.
If your brain is calibrated for depth, shallow interaction produces weak dopamine signals. Cause, mechanism, result. When dopamine response is low, motivation to repeat the behavior decreases, so your brain naturally reduces social seeking. Real-life example. Small talk doesn't energize you. It feels neutral, or even draining. But one deep conversation can stay with you for days, because your brain rewards meaning, not frequency. Trait 4. You have strong internal emotional regulation. Most people use others to regulate emotional stability. This is called co-regulation. Social interaction stabilizes mood. But some brains develop stronger self-regulation. This involves the prefrontal cortex, which stabilizes emotional states internally. Cause, mechanism, result. When your emotional regulation system is internally strong, your nervous system doesn't rely on external presence to maintain balance, so solitude feels neutral instead of threatening. Real-life example. Being alone doesn't create emotional instability. Your baseline remains steady. You don't need constant interaction to feel okay. Your nervous system already knows how to maintain equilibrium. Trait 5. Your brain protects cognitive energy aggressively. Your brain consumes energy constantly. Social interaction is one of the most energy-intensive activities. It requires prediction, interpretation, and emotional regulation. Some brains are more protective of this energy. This is linked to the brain's predictive processing system, which minimizes unnecessary effort. Cause, mechanism, result. When your brain detects high energy cost with low reward, it reduces motivation to repeat the activity, which leads to selective social behavior. Real-life example. You may enjoy people, but only in limited doses. After extended interaction, you feel mentally exhausted, not emotionally broken, just neurologically depleted. Your brain isn't antisocial. It's efficient. 5. Practical framework. How to work with your brain, not against it. This isn't about forcing yourself to become more social. It's about aligning with your neurological design. Step 1. Stop interpreting solitude as failure. What to do? Recognize solitude as regulation, not deficiency. Why it works. This reduces amygdala activation, the brain's threat detection system. When solitude is not labeled as danger, your nervous system relaxes. Example. Instead of thinking, I'm missing out, you recognize, my brain is recovering. This removes internal conflict. Step 2. Prioritize meaningful interaction. What to do? Invest in fewer, deeper connections. Why it works. Your dopamine system responds strongly to emotional depth. This satisfies your social needs efficiently. Example. One authentic connection fulfills your brain more than many superficial ones, because depth matches your neurological reward system. Step 3. Protect your cognitive energy. What to do? Limit interactions that feel draining. Why it works. This prevents nervous system overload, which protects emotional stability. Example. Leaving early isn't avoidance, it's preservation. Your brain functions best when energy is protected. Step 4. Understand that your brain is selective, not defective. What to do? Reframe social selectivity as neurological filtering. Why it works. This aligns your identity with your brain's design. Reducing internal stress improves emotional clarity. Example. You stop forcing connections that don't feel natural, and your nervous system stabilizes. Think of your brain like a high-resolution lens. It captures more detail than most. More emotional nuance, more psychological complexity. This creates clarity. But it also makes noise harder to tolerate. So your brain filters. Not to isolate you, but to protect signal quality. You don't need constant input, because your brain creates depth internally. Your nervous system isn't built for constant stimulation. It's built for meaningful stimulation. And once you understand this, something shifts. You stop measuring yourself by social quantity and start understanding your neurological design. You were never designed to connect with everyone. Your brain was designed to connect with what is real, not frequent, not loud,
but real. Having few friends doesn't mean you failed socially. It often means your brain refuses to settle for shallow connection. It waits, it filters, it protects your energy. And in a world full of noise, your mind chose clarity. Not because it couldn't connect, but because it knew. Not everything deserves access to you.